Okay, I think I am live. It's a little hard to be sure because of the delay in buttons. I'm sure I am live now. And I'm in late. I didn't do the normal early warning message because I'd been out at a work do, but I just got home in time to set up for a live stream. So if you're watching this back later, hey, it's just you and me. How special is that? Um, People will doubtless start to roll into the live chat, like Justin. Hello there. Greetings to you. My This is like a pineapple coconut juice with lemonade, and I felt fancy, so it's got a bit of lime in it. I just felt like being fancy. Um, Glad to be home. I had to cross town um, to get back where it was having like a meetup after work. And yeah, it took me about an hour to get home, which is not that bad. Look at the normal one. Hey, Luke, does anyone understand women because you don't? Dude, look, life is mysterious and complicated. I don't understand men either. Kind of. Hey, Miss Foxification and Aussie Gun Bunny, how's it going? Going reasonably well for me. Had a dark and stormy night. Okay, Miss Foxification, you're a lesbian because you can't work out men, or maybe because you have worked out men, worked out they're not worth the time. Yes, I do my usual self-deprecating thing. Well, at least I've met some women who have lower standards, so that's okay. I mean, would have been fun to have done a live stream last night, actually, because although it didn't start till quite late. Till like it was very windy earlier in the night. Then a storm really set in at about 10 p.m. And it was really uh, noisy for a couple of hours. Oh, okay, misfixation. Because you understand women, that's why you date women. Well, that makes sense. That takes some of the mystery out of it. Oh yeah, Luke. No, Adelaide seemed to have it worse. You always cop it worse. Like I was looking at the reports of the wild weather in Adelaide, sort of the day preceding what we got in Melbourne, and it seems like it was way worse in South Australia than in Victoria, worse in Adelaide than in Melbourne. Music area, part of your fence fell down. Oh, the worst thing I saw was when I got to work this morning, a tree had fallen across the driveway into the car park. So I had to back out and go in the exit, which made parking more complicated because it's angle parking and it's designed to work with the angle in. And if you come the opposite, you fucked angle. Anyway, check out windy.com. I feel like that just sounds like someone telling me to check out meatspin.com. Oh yeah, I saw that, Luke. A bus in somewhere crashed into a truck, and fortunately, the driver of the bus was actually uh, killed. That's a bit nasty, definitely. Oh, Aussie Gun Bunny, the video. I haven't looked at it yet. I saw the link. Like I've been out all night. I've not long got home. I'm interested to see it because the it reminded me instantly of an old video one of my longest term YouTube friends, Mr. Safety, did because he got hit with a false copyright claim from whoever it was who sued YouTube. For like $1 billion. And it was his original song, one of his, probably his most famous, the Mean Kitty song, Viacom. That's it. Thanks, Music Elevator. Viacom filed a false claim on a completely original piece of music. Look, I'm all for the protection of copyright, being a creator and stuff, I'd like to have my creations protected. But these companies who file bad faith, um, uh, they file bad faith copyright claims. They, like YouTube has a thing, or 3 copyright strikes and you're out. If a big company files 3 bad faith claims, they should be stopped from filing copyright claims. Well, not stopped, but how it works now is if YouTube gets a copyright notice, they automatically, do whatever the person claiming copyright wants, like take the video down or whatever. But if the person claiming has bad faith claims on their record, it should be like, okay, you can go through the whole process, but the burden of proof is now on you. We're not going to take off this video or demonetize it or anything unless you can prove there's a breach. Because these fucking companies are just criminals, basically. I'm very much not the fan of these. Was that Catherine? You're afraid when there's a bad storm? Oh, I've been in a few storms where I've been worried about windows breaking. I don't think I've had a window on a house break, but I've been in places where like hail is bashing into a window hard, and it's really off-putting. And the rear window of my hatchback smashed a year or so ago. It wasn't even a storm. I just happened to be parked on fucking St Kilda Road under a gum tree, which just decided to drop a branch while I was at the event I was at. And I came out, and the emergency services were there trying to get the branch out because someone had called them, and smashed the back window of my hatchback. I was pretty pissed off about that, quite honestly. Whole street full of people parked. Only me got a fucking branch dropped on my car. And like I said, it wasn't even a storm. Safa, hello, good evening to you. It's not too early for Halloween. It's past the halfway point in the year. It's now Halloween dress up time. So I've got my skeleton onesie on. Besides, Halloween it tends, although sometimes it is quite cool in Halloween here, it tends to be too warm to wear onesies around then. Ha! Catherine, I like that. Storms are nature's way of pruning. There was, there was that full-on storm a few years ago in Melbourne, and it was actually ripping 100-year-old trees out of the ground. It was astonishing. It was such a excellent news, Suffer, both with finding your switch stock and your sister. That is a happy ending. I'm very glad to hear that. Oh gosh, musical behavior, driving in heavy hail on the Hume Highway. Yeah, I don't think I've driven in really heavy hail, but I've driven in rain so heavy, and it was at night, and the rain was so heavy, I basically couldn't see the bonnet of my car, and I actually stopped. I was on a freeway in Western Sydney, and I stopped, pulled over. Where's the green wig? It's just here. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it feels weird. I'm probably not going to keep it on for long. Squeezing my head. Catherine lost show phone. Well, that sucks. Oh, wow. Fox of Fate, subtropical Queensland. Yes, that's where you get bad weather. And then you get further north and you get monsoons. And oh my God, some of the lightning storms they get in the wet season in the tropics is astounding. A lot of people, even I think people in Australia sometimes, but certainly a lot of people in other countries don't realize how diverse Australia is, weather and climate wise. Like even if you leave off Tasmania, because you can kind of check as Tasmania being the island a little bit to the south, you get very cool weather down there, and you have mountains on. Catherine, I'm Ronald McDonald's evil brother. I like that. Mofo Sign, hey, how's it going? But yeah, you get really temperate places like Melbourne, and you got deserts, and you get mountain ranges with snow, and then you get into the tropics. the diversity around Australia as well. I do remember being in America years ago with my ex who had family there, and we were staying with her family, and they had a fruit. This is in California, and they had a fruit basket, and I forget which tropical fruit. Like it might have been as simple as bananas. Probably wasn't bananas, pineapple or mango or something. But it was a tropical fruit, and they went like, "Oh yes, we, if you like, we have some of those." And I go, "Do you get that much in Australia?" And I'm going, "Well, the whole top half of the fucking country's tropical, so yes, we don't even have to import this stuff. It's grown in country." Not that we don't import it. We do get imports of fruit from different places. Miss Fox, actually, we don't get Alaska style weather or northern Canada. Having worked with Canadians, where they talk about winters of -40 to -50 Celsius, and 10-foot snow drifts being normal. And the joke was, they said, like, it might sound bad when we say it gets to -40 or -50, but honestly, once it hits -25, you can't tell the difference after that. You stop being able to sense the cold. Safa, your folks are visiting Uluru. They want to climb Uluru, do they? I'd be all for climbing Uluru if I was allowed to climb on top of St. Peter's Basilica, the Sistine Chapel, St. Paul's Cathedral. You get an awesome view from the top of the dome on St. Paul's Cathedral. I would really like to do that. And I'm saying that in all sincerity. There is literally no difference between climbing Uluru and climbing St. Paul's Cathedral. It's just who you're being disrespectful to that's different. And that tells you all you need to. Oh, yes, the Twisters. I agree with you. When I see this stuff, I mean, the Tornado Alley in the US, all those states that have twister season that fucks everything up. And I'm just like, why are people living there? That's really wild. But then again, some of the major areas, like, I mean, it's only pure chance Miami hasn't been destroyed by, a cyclone or a tornado. Oh yes, up in New Orleans, always flooding. Yes, yes. We do have. I mean, LA is a flood zone. It's just got artificial things to try and minimize it. Uh, uh, it might sound weird, but Las Vegas is a floodplain. It's very low lying. It's like a bowl, basically. And if you get heavy rains in the desert, Las Vegas floods. I was there in the 90s, and I think it was, there was minor flooding when I was there, and about a week or two after I left, it like seriously fucking flooded. And they said, "Oh, that's like a once in 100-year rain." And now, for some mysterious reason, these once in 100-year storms and floods seem to hit Vegas about every second or third year. So yeah. Safa, no, I've never been to New York. I really would like to go. Should do it, shouldn't I? I should just do it. Why am I saying would like to go? I'm a big boy. I could just go. I think my kids have been to New York. I know my daughter has. I think my son went too, with their mum. And I haven't been to New York. I should go to New York. Um, uh, Safa, what year of the 90s did I go to the US? I went twice with my ex. Once would have been about 95, 96. And then I went again in 98, 99, somewhere around there. And in the last 10 years, I've been about 3 times for YouTube things. Oh God, Justin, you're in New York a month before 9/11. That would be a bit freaky. I remember seeing a music video, and just before it started, I've even got the year. What year was 9/11? Was it 2001? I don't even remember. But before the video starts, a little card says this video was filmed on September 9, and we're dedicated to the people who lost their lives. And I go, oh, why are you saying that? Because the guy shot the video in New York, and it was from across the water. So the World Trade Center was constantly in the background of this guy singing for the music video. And I was like, oh God, you would feel so fucking weird. You'd feel so weird about that, I think. It's like there was, and this is a true story, you can find pictures of this online. A rap group duo, I think they were about to release an album, and they were doing, fight the power, the man's bad, Wall Street's bad. And the cover they had designed was them with a Wile E. Coyote Acme dynamite plunger going, "Ugh," and behind them the World Trade Center exploding. And that was due to come out just weeks after the terrorist attack. And so obviously the record company went, oh, not releasing it with that cover. But I mean, could you imagine if you'd released it like the Friday before it had just got in shops? Your album cover had you blowing up the World Trade Center, and then a couple days later the World Trade Center got blown up. Oh man, that would be wild. Misfoxification. Spider-Man was delayed because he swung between. I didn't know that, but that makes sense. Oh my God, was it like that Steven Spielberg movie AI? And there's a bit that's set in the far future after humanity has died out, and the flooded ruins of New York are still there, and the World Trade Center's still there. And there was some talk that they were going to release a DVD version where they digitally removed the Trade Center, but I don't think that ever happened. Justin, you're also in Bali 10 days before the bombing. I'm just saying, dude, it's starting to look like a pattern, to be in the location of one major terrorist incident before it happens is a bit uncanny. For it to happen twice starts to look a bit suspicious. Musical Gave Eddie, you reckon Microsoft Flight Sim 2002 was delayed to remove the World Trade Center? I know they also changed didn't they change the mechanics? I don't know if this was just urban legend. So you couldn't crash the planes into buildings, because prior to 2001, in various flight simulator games, you could crash the planes into buildings. But yeah, I don't know if that's a real thing or a bit of folklore that they changed flight sim so you couldn't crash into buildings. Oh gosh, Safi, your parents were going to go to Sri Lanka, but then the bombings happened. Yeah, Christ, that was all. I mean, honestly, you know why terrorists go after soft targets, because it's an easier target and it's more shocking if they're actually trying to inflict terror and scare people. Going after unguarded civilian targets, achieves goals for them. But Jesus, you have to be a piece of fucking garbage to do that, quite honestly. And yes, anyone can now bring out, well, you'd also have to be a piece of garbage to fly a drone and bomb a wedding. Man, I think, yes, you would. One doesn't excuse the other, one doesn't lessen the other. I think, because I know you're into the Flight Sims music elevator, so there was crashes in Flight Sim 98. 2000, it goes red, and 2002, it pauses and goes back to the reload screen. Oh my god, is that what Barnaby says, Miss Foxification? I saw a reference to Barnaby Joyce said something brain meltingly stupid along the lines of, uh, it's crazy talk to say we can stop climate change. I didn't know he actually said shit that stupid. I'm going to see if I can find a quote from him. Okay, barking mad is his phrase. Oh no, that's the old one. As they're saying, he once famously warned, if we took any action against climate change, you'd end up paying $150 for a lamb roast, which is fucking. This is he said in Facebook. The idea we can stop climate change is barking mad. Climate change is inevitable, as geology has always shown. It's yeah, it's just oh my god, want to do terrible things to people who say things that's so absolutely fucked. Um, it's just the climate change deniers. The mantra has gone from it's not real to uh, it might be real, but humans aren't causing it, to, okay, humans might be causing it, but now there's nothing we can do. And it's just like, fuck all of you. Fuck all of you. I want to practice recycling, put them in a compost heap. So if I did see that, Amala Clooney actually speaking out against Dutton orchestrating Australian federal police raids on journalists, because that was world news, because journalists around the world really didn't like the precedent of politically motivated attacks on journalists carried out by the federal police. In a supposed open democracy. And the whole thing was just about, the government had been embarrassed, so they wanted to punish someone. Very, very disconcerting. Yeah, that's a good one. Music better. Houses burning down is inevitable. The Great Fire of London shows us that. So why have a fire brigade that makes water prices go up? Safa, you're saying it's something Russia do. It's not the first time it's happened in Australia, but it was incredibly overt, and there were two raids on different journalists in 1 week. And yes, the good old chilling effect. Yeah, it was interesting the degree to which it made uh, global news, because journalists really didn't like it. Like, they were just, that's a bad thing. That's a very bad thing. We don't like that having the actual police raid someone for political purposes. But yes, it's very weird. But yeah, I mean, the conservatives in Australia, they have for decades been the authoritarian party. It's like every campaign they run is fundamentally lies. It's really weird. They talk about being the party of small government. We want to get out of your way and let you do your thing. And they repeatedly interfere with anything and everything they have an ideological opposition to. They go, oh, we're better economic managers than Labor. But the last 3 decades have shown clearly that successive Labor governments have managed the economy better than successive Tory governments, and the Tories have in fact fucked the economy right up each time they've been in power. And yeah, and there's this whole thing about we're the party of individual liberty. But since the 90s and Howard, they've been trying to make thought crime a thing. Howard pushed very hard for sedition laws. Now, I personally am in favor of things like if you are actively inciting people to violence or crime, then that should be punishable. But he was literally saying if you said stuff the government didn't like that didn't have to include any calls to violence or any endorsement of violence, you literally had to say the government's surveillance is really fucked and they're taking away all our rights, and they could charge you basically if and this is also whistleblowers, anyone who dares to expose wrongdoing by the government, the law's going to come down on them like a ton of bricks. And ever since Howard in the 90s, the Liberals have been pushing for more and more surveillance, more and more police powers, more and more limitations on anyone they don't like, basically. It's absolutely farcical the degree to which people who support the LNP go, oh no, they're the party of freedom. Shut the fuck up, you morons. So what year was on that? Howard. Let's see if a quick search on Howard and sedition, if that turns something out. Let's see. When was John Howard doing it? I found what am I doing here? On John Howard era laws. 2005. Okay. I thought it was in the 90s. This says 2005. This is the thing. This is what they declared illegal: an intention to effect any of the following purposes: to bring the sovereign into hatred or contempt. In other words, to say the Queen's a shit. To urge disaffection against the following: the Constitution, the government, or the Houses of Parliament. To urge another person to attempt otherwise than by lawful means to procure a change to any matter established by law in the Commonwealth. So in other words, you're not allowed to protest because protests are illegal. To promote feelings of ill will or hostilities between different groups. Fuck me. But literally just saying they want to make it a crime to say the government shit. We should change the Constitution. It's like, fucking hell. Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous. Oh yeah, no, fucking, it was absolutely ridiculous. And this is like, I'm trying to express. It's not just that they did it; It's just that at the same time they're doing this ridiculous um, fucking thought crime law, uh, they're also calling themselves the party of individual freedom. It's like, what the fuck? Justin, you reckon everyone in favour of Brexit are also opposed to Australia becoming a republic? Um, Not people I spend a lot of time talking to. Well, actually, no, that's not strictly speaking true. I just mean the loudest voices. I mean, there are lots of quite reasonable people who think the European Union shit, um, and there are lots of reasonable people who think Australia should stay in the British Commonwealth, shouldn't become a republic. I disagree with those points. Well, actually, you can find positives about Commonwealth law, and in fact, any changes to the constitution to allow Australia to become a republic would have to be very carefully thought through because uh, it's just a golden opportunity for politicians to pull some serious fuckery. So what I vote for in the Republic referendum, I voted fuck you, John Howard, you fucking piece of shit. That entire thing was deliberately sabotaged by John Howard and the simpering fucking idiots who promoted themselves as the face of the Republican movement wouldn't stand up to it. Like Howard stacked this committee to come up with the referendum question. He stacked it with people who were actively opposed to a referendum. So, in other words, it was full of people who went out of their way to make the Republic proposal so shitty more people would reject it. It's like, it's fucking ridiculous. I mean, the question should be relatively simple. Should Australia be a republic? Uh, should the head of state be an Australian? Should, there be no constitutional, legal, or otherwise ties to Britain? So we're not under any sort of influence from England. Uh, it's just the whole thing was such a fucking fuss. Though what was interesting in the pro-republic camp, there was a split. The main split in the pro-republic camp was people who thought the head of state, the president, should be elected by popular vote, and the people who thought the president should be appointed by the government of the day, or by the parliament, so by vote in the parliament. And you'll be shocked to learn the majority of the people in favour of the head of state being appointed by the parliament were people deeply invested in the existing power structure, and the majority of people who wanted the head of state elected by popular choice tended to be just people who just went, no, fuck the monarchy, and also fuck all you bastards in Canberra who were trying to screw us over on this, quite honestly. Malcolm Turnbull was a Republican, but he was famously in favour of the appointed role. And I remember people saying sarcastically but reasonably accurately at the time, the model for the head of state to be appointed by the parliament was favoured by people who were already in the power structure, who clearly fancied their chances of being named President of Australia. And Turnbull was incredibly obviously motivated in that direction. So, well, which option would I want? Obviously, there are flaws in either model. See, a lot of the people who said the head of state should be appointed were saying that would stop us from getting anyone really unqualified as president. To which people said, well, how bad could that be? And we now know, the answer to the question, what's the worst that could happen, is clearly Donald Trump. Now, there's also, notwithstanding, he's a product of a seriously fucked electoral system, and we do not have that problem in Australia. But yes, the problem with the populist model is it is subject to scary demagogues, basically. And yeah, what's the worst that could happen? You've seen populist fucking fascists all around the world. Trump, and not that Trump's a fascist, a bit of hyperbole there, but Duterte in the Philippines and Bolsonaro in Brazil, and there's been a few elections in Europe where far right candidates have done very well, which is all very, very disturbing. Um, so the the whole thing's a bit, but I'm more for popular vote, because if it's appointed by the parliament, that's already been exploited. We're worried about a demagogue possibly exploiting the popular vote. A system like parliament appointing the head of state, then that's already perverted. That's already the dominant power structure reinforcing themselves. If you're going to have a presidential system, it's the whole checks and balances thing of, the executive wing, the president having certain powers, parliamentary wing having other powers, and the judicial wing having other powers around the law. If the presidential role is just an extension of the parliament, I don't see the point of it. Justin, should we abolish the office of Prime Minister? Someone's got to run the show, buddy. Who do you think should run the show? I think the prime ministerial system is better than the presidential system, quite honestly. The party or coalition that can get enough seats together, in other words, convince enough people to vote for them, forms a government, and the leader of that party is the head of that government. I think that's better than the US presidential system, for instance. Hey, Radiscorpion, how are you doing? Oh, Justin, you think replace a president with... Well, even parliamentary systems that have, a president as head of state, there is senior members of the political parties calling the shots, at least normally. Like in the US, each of the major parties has their congressional leaders and their leaders in the Senate. And they're either minority or majority leaders. But the party always has someone who is at the very least a figurehead who has a stronger say than others in policy direction. So whether you call it prime minister or not, parliamentary parties are always going to have someone who's top of the totem pole. So I think that's semantics as much as anything else. Although then you get into the question of, well, should we change the constitution to define the limits of the powers of parliamentary party leaders. That's something that could be explored. But I think the general thinking is, well, someone's got to be captain, someone's got to lead from the front. And in the Westminster system, we call that the Prime Minister, which is I was surprised at how recent the invention of the position of Prime Minister was. The term was used, I think, informally for longer, but the official role, Prime Minister, is a relatively recent invention. And hi, Fila and Sila. How's up, federal ICAC? Fuck yes. You can tell it's a good idea because of how fucking scared of it the Liberal Party is. But I'll be completely honest with you. God, all my fridge's little motors are going at once. It's ridiculous. It's like they're staging a fucking uprising on me. And some of the bottles are touching each other, which is making more noise. Okay. What the hell? Which bottles are touching? That wasn't a bottle, by the way. That was plastic. That was plastic, don't worry. I do tend to agree with you, mixed foxification, no matter what political system we use. Politicians are for sale. Oh, yes. Donations to political parties. How fucking shifty is that? And politicians shouldn't be able to work as lobbyists when they leave. Hopefully, I should kick the caps off them. Isn't that funny? I don't know. For those who haven't seen it, it's some weird internet challenge of how precise some people who do the martial arts stuff say they can get. They do this spinning kick on a screw top bottle and spin the top off the bottle without knocking the bottle over. First one I saw doing it was Jason Statham, and there's a few others, and of course a few people did joke versions of it. I don't know if any of them are legit or if they're all digital trickery, because it's a pretty fucking astonishing feat. Because whenever you see the Jason Statham, the successful ones I've seen, you're just seeing the neck of the bottle and the top of the bottle, and they do it. I strongly suspect the bottom of the bottle is in a clamp or is being held by somebody. Maybe I'm too cynical. Maybe I should believe in the magic of these people who do spinny kicks and make bottles unscrew themselves without knocking the bottle over. It's just that I have my doubts, quite honestly. So I just, you think, oh yeah, we'll get rid of the Governor General. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a republic idea. Make the Prime Minister head of state. The idea of having a head of state separate to the government, the parliamentary government, is the concept of the three branches of power. In England, it's the monarchy, the parliament, and the courts. In America, it's the president and Congress and Senate and the courts. In Australia, it's the vice-regal head of state. Technically, the monarch is our head of state, but her representative here, the Governor-General, is our constitutional head of state. And the parliamentary government and the courts also have their powers. So the Governor General and even the monarchy is incredibly symbolic, whereas, like the president in the US is a very serious power. In Australia, at least, the Governor General and the monarchy are mostly symbolic, but not completely. If we look at November 11th, 1975, when the unelected Queen's representative, the Governor General, sacked the government that had been elected democratically by the people of Australia. And no, I'm never forgiving that. Never, ever, ever. It's a fucking travesty that that happened. And we should have had a fucking revolution and had a fucking republic the next day, but we rolled over. So what do you mean, Justin? The ACT operates that way. The ACT is a state. It just has a state government. I don't know, someone who is more of a constitutional scholar than myself might know what powers, if any, the state governors and governor general have, if they can pass any laws or have any effect. I mean, like, you can't, constitutionally, you can't form government unless the governor general says you can. And the governor general would be discouraged from making any decision that doesn't clearly reflect the will of the voting public. But yeah, it's technically, like, we go, yay, the election's over, this party won. Technically, they're not the government until the leader of the parliamentary party goes to the Governor General and says, "Hi, I want to form a government," and the Governor General goes, "You beaut, do it." Dr. Obama, hey there, did hear Sir Jonka, Letters to the Queen could be released. Oh God, that'd be interesting. And hi, Noog, as well. Yeah, for those who don't know, the Governor General at the time was by the name of Sir John Kerr, a rather pathetic alcoholic who did actually behave unconstitutionally, because he was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I think I'll get legal advice." And the Prime Minister gave him instructions. And constitutionally, the Governor General can't act in contravention to an instruction from the government. But he did, and he went and had chinwags with this hyper-conservative lawyer or judge who said, "Oh no, fuck no, you can actually sack the government, yeah." And as someone pointed out, yes, a CIA coup. There's overwhelming evidence the CIA was aggressively involved in destabilizing the Whitlam government, because Whitlam had made it clear that he didn't like the idea of being a vassal to the US. Well, Ms. Foxfashion, you're not going to get any argument from me if you think we're going down the wrong way with this government. But, there was a fucking election, and enough people believed the lies, because lies they were. Pretty much everything the LNP and their propaganda arm, the Murdoch media. I can never work out which one is actually calling the shots and which one's just the propaganda arm. Is Murdoch calling the shots and the Tories are just his propaganda arm, or are the Tories nominally in charge and the Murdoch media is their propaganda wing? It's very hard to tell which is the tail and which is the dog, quite honestly. They both have fleas, eh? Extending a metaphor. Oh, Dr. Obama, it's Whitlam's birthday, is it? I wonder how old would he have been? That would be an interesting one. Because me being a nerd, I saw a notice this week that we just had the 100th anniversary of John Pertwee's birth. He has been dead for a little while, but he was the third Doctor Who, and it's the 100th anniversary of his birth. Oh, Dr. Brahma, rumours Telstra would buy the NBN. I honestly think that would probably be a good thing. Telstra then made a concerted effort to fucking improve it, because Jesus fucking Christ, the Libs have done just a brilliant fucking job of absolutely destroying it and fucking driving this country's internet into the ground. One of the worst examples of bullshit fucking political games I've seen. Like, for all his personal flaws, and he had a few, Stephen Conroy, who proposed the National Broadband Network, it was a good plan. Like, it was a fucking great plan that would have been incredibly productive for Australia's economy and just really nice for the majority of the population. But the Libs had to say it was a bad policy because it's a Labor policy, and they couldn't admit Labor had a good policy. Just knew it's Tony Abbott's fault. He had no foresight. Oh, no, he knew exactly what he was doing. And, I think when, what's his name, Kevin Rudd gets into his slightly conspiratorial moods, he talks about Abbott acting on specific instruction from Murdoch to destroy the NBN because he believed it to be a threat to both his Foxtel business model and his general media business model. So I will leave it for history to work out exactly. I thought it was fluff. I think I've got a stain on my ones. There's a trouble with a black thing like this. You get stains on it. It's really noticeable. Probably not as noticeable as if it was white overall, quite honestly. But then you get a light coloured stain. I'm fixating on it. It's ridiculous. But yeah, the entire the entire country got fucked over by the Libs' deliberate destruction of the National Broadband Network. Fucking hell. It's just, it just sucks. And it was, they had a two-pronged motivation. One is they just had to say the NBN was bad policy because it's Labor policy, because they couldn't admit that Labor had a good policy, and so they fucked over the entire country just out of bloody mindedness. And yeah, I think they did have pressure from Murdoch to do it. Oh, Tony Abbott is without a doubt the worst Prime Minister Australia's ever had. It's not even close. I mean, not least because of the way the public fucking turned on him. Like, he swept into government with a big electoral win, but he was such a fucking disaster area. Within 2 years, a significant majority of the country had turned on him. It was unprecedented. Feeling Taylor, I haven't seen The Loudest Voice yet. It's about, I think, the founding of the Fox Empire. It centres on Roger Ailes. I think Russell Crowe plays him. I don't have the subscription service that's screening on, so I won't be seeing it in a hurry. Dr. Obama, what do I think of Greg Combay? I don't know anything about him. I remember all sorts of shit about. I can't remember if it's good or bad things. I feel like didn't Greg Combay get caught in scandals? Like, I know the name. I know he was the ACTU secretary, but I feel like scandals. I could be wrong because I can't remember anything specific. Who's the guy who introduced a carbon price? That was really interesting. Oh, right, I'm looking him up now. That's what he looked like. I remember him now. Okay. He swore a lot. Man after my own heart. Someone who swore a lot. Oh, Justin, yes, an expose series on Rupert Murdoch. Oh God, that would get really ugly. Just with the bust-ups with his family, uh, some of the family dramas that happen between him and his kids would be pretty extreme, dramatic TV. They had all sorts of fallings out over the years. Yeah, Murdoch's a fucking monster. Can't die soon enough. Honestly, he's fucking terrible. Justin, who was on the show? You can't ask that. Greg Combay. What the? It always seems like a good show, an interesting show for those who've never heard of it. It's a show on Australian TV. You can't ask that. Who are people who are from a particular group that um, um, might be, marginalised or have stereotypes about them or these things, and people anonymously write in questions for them. The question you're too scared to ask. You can't ask that. Yeah. See, Jason, Gina Reinhardt. Oh God, I had a big rant about Gina Reinhardt and her dad on Tuesday. They're fucking criminals who stole billions of dollars from Australia. Oh, all the little things you could change um, if Gina Reinhardt's dad had not been granted the mining leases that he had no right to, uh, oh my God, things would be so much better for Australia. So much. Talked about who do I think was worse, Lang Hancock or his daughter Gina? Well, Lang Hancock notoriously uh, said we should sterilise Aborigines to get rid of the Aboriginal problem. Gina Reinhardt said if only she was allowed to bring in workers from Africa, she could pay them $4 a day and they'd be happy. So, I mean, they're both fucking garbage. So, it's kind of like, would you rather eat a, a decaying maggot infested rat, or would you rather eat uh, decomposing raw sewage? Both bad, absolutely both bad. Ha! Dr. Mum, you changed history. So Lang's Filipino wife, she was a colourful character, wasn't she? You wanted her to get all the money. Yeah. Oh no, no, we've got some really bad shit bags here. Uh, I honestly think they are worse in the UK. Quite honestly, I think the stakes are bigger in the UK, but we really do have some colossal scumbags. And by the way, Lang Hancock, who's interviewed for the ABC, the rap duo AB Original used audio um, from the ABC of Lang Hancock spouting his sterilisation proposal. That was only in the 70s. It's not, it's not in the 1800s. It's in the 70s. Or, no, I think it was the 70s, not the 80s. His grand plan to sterilise or half caste. He had a problem with half castes. They're the troublemakers. Yeah, want to ship them all off somewhere and put something in the water to sterilise them, and then they'll just all be dead in a generation and no more problem. Oh, good on you. Okay. Oh, geez, yes. Okay, Miss Foxification. We should. Various politicians should be up in the Hague um, uh, for human rights abuses. I mean, our little torture concentration camps on the offshore islands have been called out repeatedly by the UN as human rights abuses. Do rich people get up themselves? I think what happens with an overwhelming majority of rich people is they get separated from everyone else and they're incapable of relating to other people. And if they're in business, they seem to believe their own press releases about what geniuses they are and gloss over what exploitative pieces of shit they are. So, yeah, there's certain things that can happen to someone which just means they're not normal. God, now other noises. This bloody, I've got to do this. This bloody oven thing. Ugh, stupid thing. It's just so annoying. The clock ticks over 12 o'clock and just buzzes really loudly. I hate it. And I haven't worked out how to stop it from doing it. I haven't worked out how to switch off the bloody clock. It's annoying. No, I think you've hit on the growth industry of the future, the guillotine industry. It could really work. Oh, God, Dr. Brahmi, watching old 60 Minutes from the 80s, talking about Lang's wife replacing Gina's. Oh, God, that was a very sordid affair. This is a little weird thing. Lang Hancock was one of the rich people in Australia because he stole mining leases that he had no right to. Don't know how many times he was married, but quite late in life, he did marry his housekeeper, who was much younger than him. And his daughter, Gina Reinhardt, really hated that. She's the gold digger. She's going to steal the money. She's going to try and kill him for his money. And look, I don't know about the truth of any of that, but she was certainly a colourful character. Safa, how did he steal the license? Okay, I'll give the potted version because I have said this before. Okay, in Western Australia, where Lang Hancock got his first really big mining leases, there was a law that said if land had already been surveyed and shown to be of mineral value, private enterprise couldn't stake a claim there. It was public land, and if the government had already done the work to find out where the mineral deposits were, then private enterprise couldn't have it. And the absolutely fake origin story Lang Hancock invented for himself is he was just off on a flight in a light aircraft with a friend of his, and they had engine trouble, and they're out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, and they had to do a forced landing on this flat piece of ground. And as he was sitting there and his friend was trying to work out how to get the plane to fly again, he noticed the rocks around were really red, like iron oxide, and he thought, wow, by sheer chance, I think I've landed on a massive iron deposit. And he applied for a mining lease there. And as I said, you couldn't do that if the land had already been surveyed by the government who'd identified the mineral wealth. And that had been done in this area, and Lang Hancock knew that. And the story about the plane and stuff has been proven to be a complete fucking lie. There was no flights registered. The whole story is a fucking lie. He just knew that this had been surveyed, but then the report got buried in bureaucracy, but he'd found out about it. And if he just said, I want to lease there, and they'd say, why? And he wouldn't be here. So he came up with this absolutely spurious story about how he found the iron deposit by pure chance. And the government still didn't want to give it to him. They're like, oh, bullshit, mate. And but in the grand tradition of, well, not just Australian media, but media around the world, Lang Hancock had a mate running the West Australian newspaper. and got him to lobby against the government. And so Lang basically made it clear, because I've got the media running all the Mimsy's come in to say, "Are you going to come up here?" I've got the media running all these false stories about you. I'll make sure you lose government if you don't give me these mining leases. And the government folded under pressure and gave him these mining leases. And if they'd never cracked, if he'd never been given those mining leases he had no legal right to, he and his international cronies would not have been able to steal billions of dollars in wealth from the Australian people, because that's who it belonged to. And you get these ridiculous arguments about, oh, if the government had run mines, they'd be so inefficient. Private enterprise is much more efficient. Like, motherfucker, the government-run mines could have been so inefficient they were only 10% as productive as these private companies' mines, and it still would have been of significantly more benefit to the Australian people. It's like, these people are fucking criminals. Absolute fucking criminals. Well, Safa, it would have... I'm not sure exactly how it worked. I mean, the West Australian government would have had control of the mining. I'm not sure exactly how the wealth would have been divvied, if it would have been nationalised and run at the federal level. Or look, how much does she love that? How much does she love to scritchy scritch on the chin? Yeah, but basically Lang Hancock's a criminal and a racist piece of shit. Gina Reinhardt is just fucking awful. But yeah, they stole billions and billions of dollars from the Australian people. And fucking Gina Reinhardt saying all this shit about, oh, God, they're making me pay minimum wage, and oh, there's this and there's that. Oh, and they're taking this money in tax. Like, fuck off. If it's costing you too much, if you have to pay too much tax, get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Walk the fuck away, you thieving, greedy piece of shit. I'll run the mines, and I'll tell you what, I will pay 99% of the profits to the government in tax, happily. And I'll still be filthy fucking stinking rich. You evil, greedy, fucking piece of shit. It's like, they're so blind to fucking history, these people. The way that wealth and income disparity has gotten exponentially worse in the last 40, 50 years. Every period in history where this has happened, where wealth is concentrated in the hands of a tiny few and the overwhelming exploited masses are ripped off, every single time that's happened in history, it's ended in violent revolution. I mean, there's famously an American billionaire who gave a speech at one of those fucking billionaire retreats. He basically said, if we don't change what we're doing, the pitchforks are coming. That's his name, Ray Dalio. And no, it was Nick Hanauer is who I was thinking of. Yes, that's someone else's name. He's from Seattle. And he's like one of the anonymous billionaires. Isn't that weird? You have like anonymous billionaires. He founded an internet advertising company that was sold to Microsoft in 2007 for $6.5 billion. So he's a billionaire, but he's kind of anonymous. And he gave this warning to the plutocrats. It's gonna end badly. It's they will come for us with the pitchforks. History tells us. Oh God! Hey, no one asked me about why I named this "No Time for Boring Fuckwits," because I had another one of the boring fuckwits obsessing over me, and so I've had a bunch of these stupid cunts with their stupid fucking bad faith arguments going like, no, Tommy Robinson's innocent. Tommy Robinson's a hero. Why are you saying Tommy Robinson's a fucking awful bigot? What's your evidence for Tommy Robinson being a bigot? It's like, oh, get fucked. So I thought there was an outside chance. I block so many of them, so they're not here for the live stream. But I am not going to waste any time on any fuckwits. Oh my God! Just after this, when dickhead, you go debate me. It's going, why? You're a fucking child. You've got the intellectual sophistication of a fucking 12-year-old who's been locked in a cellar and had InfoWars videos as his only source of entertainment. And it's just like these fuckwits are all the same. They just vomit out the same half dozen cliche talking points. They argue in bad faith. They say, I want to debate. And which just means they just want to say stupid fucking shit. And to the best of my knowledge, this particular worthless loser who obsesses over me is too fucking gutless to even show his face. So it's like, if you know that what you're saying is so fucking vile and toxic, it would get you shunned by any decent sections of society. It's time for you to fuck the hell off. I think I will now form a cocktail inspired by me kicking people. Oh, sorry, Phil, I just saw your question. Will $100 buy as much groceries as it did 40 years ago? Um, no. I think with inflationary things, God, $100 probably buy you 10 times more groceries 40 years. I mean, there have been trade-offs because of like factory farming and whatnot, and exploiting cheap labor in some third world countries. Some grocery items have seen improvements in their value. And in fact, look, I'm saying this with a great big asterisk next to it because I'm just going by gut feel, and that can be wrong. An actual economist might be able to say, no, here's a shopping trolley from 40 years ago with $100 worth of stuff, and it's very close to a shopping trolley today with 100. So yeah, my initial gut feeling is, oh fuck no, $100 would have got you heaps more. But I know there have been some reductions or limits in price increase that came out of bad things. Basically, all the reductions are bad things: factory farming and exploitative labor practices. But I think inflation beats them. Safa, did we have 0.0% inflation last month? Wouldn't surprise me. Economy's in the fucking toilet. Wages have been stagnant for 30 years. It's outrageous. Company profits have gone up, 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 up. Bonuses to executives have gone up, 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 up. But salaries for the people who are fucking making all these productivity gains have been stagnant for 30 fucking years. You're always going to fall into being Labour broken since I brought that up. How petty have the Greens been with Alba and Scummo going the State of Origin event? Well, I'll make two comments on that. I have very little time for the Greens, and I think Albo thus far has been a worthless, pathetic, spineless piece of shit. like every day gets worse. Every day I just feel more contempt for him. And I would have rated him stacks higher than Bill Shorten. But since the election, Albanese has been fucking garbage. He's been spineless. He's been pathetic. The entire Labor message since the election has been worthless fucking shit. It's just going, oh, it's going to be Liberal Party light. That'll get us elected. Fuck no. Not unionised. Besides the constant demonisation of unions in conservative press, the government is pretty fucking keen to ban unions. So I knew there'd be a cocktail called the Kicker, and in fact, there's probably a bunch of different cocktails called the Kicker. So what's this one? There's one called the Kicker that's rum, Calvados. I don't have Calvados, but I've got some apple brandy, which is the same thing, and vermouth. I do have those. I could make that. What's this one? A whiskey one. Oh my god, are these fuckers gonna do this? Okay, fuck off. Jesus fucking Christ. Why are people doing this 1990s thing, making it hard to get into their website? So this one, the Safe Kicker. Whiskey, apricots. It's got a bunch of fucking... it's just like a variant on a whiskey sour, which is one of my favourite cocktails. Got sherry in it. I'm not going to make that. Let's have a look. The Kicker. Sambuca vodka. Jesus Christ. Okay, that must be for a punch. Literally, they're saying 2 shots of Sambuca, 1 shot vodka, half a glass of lemonade, 3 shots of tequila, quarter, 6 shots of alcohol, even in a tall drink. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But Sambuca I don't have, but absinthe is the same, well, not the same, but is an aniseed flavour like Sambuca is. Vodka and wow. Should make an absinthe, vodka, and tequila. No, that's not sounding good to me. Looking like your government's always pissing me off. The Australian government, that is. Got to go, Nook. Thank you for dropping by. What's this one? A dit kicker. Why is it called the dit kicker? What's a dit? Fruit punch, vodka, peach schnapps, lemon juice. I still think that one with all the shots is ridiculous. Still think I might make that one. An ath kicker. All right, I'm going to try these last 2 recipes. That's that one. Vermouth, Calvados, and rum. Okay, that's the second one that's said rum, apple brandy, and vermouth. Okay, so what's this last one? Look at this. Where's the fucking recipe? Why did they fucking do this? All right. vodka. Oh God, that's gross. That's the kicker. It's like espresso, vodka, and Irish cream. That's like a fucking Black Russian or something. I don't know. No, that sounds gross. I'm gonna make this one with a rum and apple brandy. All right. The kicker in celebration of the fact I'm kicking anyone who annoys me. So let's have a did Woolworths own Dan Murphy's? I didn't know that. And let's say they're selling off the beer, wine, and spirits business. Oh, good. Selling off the pokies is good. Pokies are straight up um, evil. But if they sell off the BWS, which is the bottle shop that's always attached to Woolworths supermarkets, are they still going to be there, just owned by someone else? Are they trying? They trying to be ethical or something? Jacob, I did not hear Tommy Robinson has been sentenced. I didn't know they'd done sentencing yet. I will laugh if he goes to jail. Let's see if I can get a confirmation. Sent back to jail. Breaking news. Thank you for the breaking news for Stephen Yaxley Lennon is going back to jail. Ten weeks. Sentence means he'll be behind bars for just under 10 weeks. It's fairly symbolic. Okay. There you go. Well, that's the thing is, he the bullshit he does is literally risking the trial of some truly awful sex offenders. This is when I made the video about it. I tried to make it clear. All the stuff about your opinions, he's a hero. It's pointless arguing that because if you believe that, you believe that, and you're a fucking moron. But what is an absolute two absolutely inarguable facts? One, his actions could not possibly have made it more likely for a conviction in this case. And in fact, point two, his actions ran a very real risk of derailing the case, at the very least, having a mistrial in that case, and at the worst, having the sex offenders get off completely because a judge declares they can't get a fair trial. And three, he knew that because he's been convicted of this offence before and he was given a suspended sentence and he was told, if you do this again, you should expect to go to prison. He knew for a fact what he was doing was illegal. He just considered, I don't know, like he believes his own bullshit. He considers himself above the law. Jacob, the judge said he liked playing the victim. That is apparently true. So I am going to make, with that little bit of news, I'm going to make a kicker cocktail, which will mark my official celebration of Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley Lennon being sent to prison. So I've got to get some pieces together. Here. Cocktail shaker and my tiki mug. Again, this is not traditionally the mug you'd have it in, but I'm not that much of a snob. I just really like that cup. Okay, this one. Get my big old block of ice. Got to remember to top this up. I know what I'll do. I'll put it here because it's Friday night tomorrow. Might make a few Netflix. So apple brandy, rum. That's not rum. This is rum, and just there's some dashes of vermouth. I don't even know if you can taste it. I feel like sometimes, a lot of times, cocktails are being a bit wanky when they say, "I'm just put a dash of this in." I'm going, really? Are you going to taste a dash of that? Is that even a thing? I don't think I'd even have to get my cocktail shake. I don't think this is one that needs to be shaken, really. I'll just stir it. Oh, wait, I need my jigger. Okay. So 2 parts rum to 1 part apple brandy. And, oh, sorry, hello. Is that Sandy at Environmental Coffee House? Coffee, 7:38 a.m. That's the perfect time for coffee drinking. So 2 parts rum. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, God. God, it shits me that they call Tommy Robinson or any of these fuckwits with just a phone camera and a big mouth, call them journalists. Journalist is actually a job, that you need qualifications for. The parade of these fucking morons calling themselves a journalist is almost as obnoxious as the ridiculous bigoted shit they get up to. Dashes of Chinzano. Dash is a very imprecise phrase. Put that over there. All right. So we have the kicker in favour of Tommy Robinson getting his ass kicked into jail. Thank you. Smells pretty good. The rum's the strongest smell, obviously. Oh, that's okay. Jacob, their dislikes. Yeah, that would be Tommy Robinson's orders. I do not pay any attention to their foolishness. Who does he work for? A Canadian media personality. Who does he actually work for? The Rebel News Network. It's another one of these self-proclaimed ones. Is it again? Why this thing when you have to fundamentally lie to prove your point? What fucking point do you have? Tommy's gone to jail for journalism. No, he hasn't. He's gone to jail for contempt of court. And as I said, he knew beyond any doubt what he was doing was illegal because he'd been convicted of it before, given a suspended sentence, told if he did it again, he should expect to go to prison. Did it again, now he's going to prison. And he just either he's got a martyr complex or he genuinely believes himself to be above the law. And this is the big thing because he's actually, you get these fuckwit bigots who support him and go, oh, so you support the Muslim pedophiles. No, I wanted the sex offenders convicted and sent to jail. What Tommy Robinson did was endangering that outcome. And in fact, the defense lawyers used his actions as their primary defense after he did it. They say, oh, we can never get a fair trial. You have to discharge this jury, blah, blah. And there was a very high chance that that could have worked. So when the people say, oh, don't you want the sex offenders convicted? Yes. And if you imagine, I don't know, whatever hypothetical person who's pro-pedophilia and wants to make sure child rapists don't go to prison, they would do literally exactly what good old Stephen Yaxley Lennon did. That is the action of somebody who wants the child rapists to not be convicted, because there is no way possible you are increasing the chances of them getting convicted, and you are in fact giving their defense lawyers a legal avenue to argue that they shouldn't be convicted, that they can't be given a fair trial. So when the actions of good old Stephen Yaxley Lennon are the exact actions that you would take if your primary goal was to make sure the child rapists didn't go to prison, I think you really have to start to seriously look at why you are supporting this person. Except these people are completely fucking incapable of self-reflection. They're just absolutely mindless bigots motivated by stupidity, ignorance, and bigotry. Absolute scum. Musical AV, yes, Darren Hinge did that in Australia and was convicted. I think he only got house arrest, though. I don't think Darren Hinch was sent to prison, but he did get, if I remember rightly, quite an extended house arrest thingy going on. Like that is a summary, Loogie. Trump's a lot of things. None of them are good. Oh my God, how scared is Trump of this Epstein guy getting prosecuted? Holy crap. That's so bad. And it's so funny. You get some Trump defenders saying, oh, you can't go after Donald Trump without going after Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton knew this guy. And you go, okay, well, on the surface, there's virtually no relationship between how Clinton knew this guy and how Trump knew this guy. But honestly, if investigation shows that Clinton was actively involved in this underage sex abuse with this Epstein guy, burn him to the fucking ground, put him in the cell next to Trump. The idea that there are people who wouldn't want Clinton prosecuted if there was evidence that he took part in these underage sex abuse sessions. I'm sure there are some people who defend him because there's a fuck ton of people defending Trump and defending Epstein, but absolutely ridiculous. Oh, Phil, I heard that Andy Ngo who got beaten up by Antifa in Portland going on Joe Rogan. It's just and again, coming back to what I said about him when that happened, I still haven't seen anything that justifies the way that dude got beat up. But it's absolutely fucking ridiculous how he's turned it into a grift, just telling lie after lie after lie, like exaggerating, going on about brain damage. It's a complete fucking lie. And just the broader lie they were telling about that Portland protest. Oh, it was quick drying cement in those milkshakes. No, there fucking wasn't. It's a fucking lie. The whole thing is like, okay, when your central premise relies on you lying, fuck, what have you fucking got? But yeah, no, it's again with all these free speech warriors. They're almost to a person. They're almost all grifters. It's almost always just a con, like create some circumstance where they can con a bunch of really fucking stupid bigots into giving them money. It's Jesus. Yeah, I did read that sort of thing further and further about him saying, "Oh, I've got a brain injury." No, he's a fucking liar. He's an absolute fucking lying, grifting piece of shit. Um, and like I said, with the asterisk, I still haven't seen anything that would justify the degree to which he did get beat up, which I'm slightly surprised by. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything in the realm of compelling information on that. But when I just saw that, I thought, okay, that was pretty full on, and I didn't see anything that justified an action as full on as that. The same feeling too. Bring up Joe Rogan. I can't tell if Joe Rogan is super fucking gullible or a shameless bad faith actor, because the way he validates people who are the fucking scum of the earth is just like that isn't an action that has no effect. When you validate and give credence to absolute garbage who promote the most extreme forms of hatred and bigotry, the white supremacists and the neo-fascists, when you glibly treat, excuse me, when you glibly treat their shit like just a point of view, it's just like, nah, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you in the neck. Like I say, he's somewhere on a spectrum from being extremely fucking gullible and just thick as shit to being an active enabler of the worst fucking people on the planet, because he validates this shit, and you get all these fucking morons. See, Joe Rogan, he's not right wing, and he said that's legitimate, and he says Antifa are bad. And it's like, well, dude, like I said, he's either thick as fucking shit or just a shameless, self-promoting bad faith actor, because fuck that noise. And hello, Stella. Come in while I'm having one of my little rants. Jake, we'll ever do a call-in style show. It's just really difficult to manage. I'm not averse to it. I just don't know what technology I would use to do that. But yes, oh god, yeah, yes. While we're on topics of people who are shit, I agree, Miss Foxification. Fuck Israel Folau. Again, speaking of liars and grifters, I mean, fucking hell, for someone who says they're a Christian, I mean, I feel like I've read the Bible a fuck ton more than Israel Folau, because there is no question whatsoever. The teachings of Jesus, the New Testament, make it absolutely clear, with no shade of a doubt, that Israel Folau is going to hell on a number of counts, for his hate preaching. That's specifically called out as something that's not acceptable. And also just the good old one, all his fucking money and his fixation on money and the way he's driven by money. One of the more famous Jesus teachings, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And the only thing working in Israel Folau's favor is it's all fucking bullshit, so he can just be an evil, lying, soulless, grifting piece of shit, and not suffer eternal damnation, because that shit's not real. But yeah, if the Christian faith was real, Israel Folau straight to fucking hell. Which is bizarre that more people don't realize. They go, oh, he's a champion of free speech. Oh, it's Christian right? No. If you were anything remotely approaching a Christian who actually follows the teachings of the New Testament, you'd look at him and go, oh my God, he's an awful, hateful bigot who's just spreading hate and ruining the lives of people. Oh, and he's driven by money. He's going to hell. There's no two ways about it. It's categorically explicit. And again, literally nowhere in the teachings of Jesus is there anything about gay people are getting punished. Nowhere. In fact, the central part of his teachings, like when a mob and in some of the readings of the New Testament, it's like they're testing Jesus, see what he wants. They bring a woman, a fallen woman who, under the letter of the law, should be stoned to death, but Jesus has always just been talking about love and forgiveness. And they go, can we catch Jesus out will he speak against the laws of the elders? And they say, okay, Jesus, she broke the law. The law says she should be stoned to death. What are you going to do? And Jesus just said, let he who's without sin cast the first stone. And they're all like, oh, ooh. And no one's willing to do. And, as you say, growing up Catholic, I used to watch Dave Allen. We said religious jokes were like my favorite growing up. There's one that the Irish comedian Dave Allen told, that story when the Pharisees bring the fallen woman to Jesus and say, the law says she should be stoned to death. What are you going to do? And Jesus said, let anyone who is without sin cast the first stone. Mum, put it down. Put down the stone. That's a Catholic joke. You have to know, in the popular versions of Christianity, Mary, the mother of Jesus, was pure and without sin. So technically, with Jesus' line about without sin can throw the first stone, his mum could have thrown the first stone. Yes. So, and that's the weirdest thing. And God, don't even get me start on white American evangelicals in particular. That's just like, I don't know. Like, these people preach a lot the complete opposite of the New Testament. Like, not even just, I'm not going to squeeze between the lines and come up with it. They literally preach the complete opposite and promote greed and avarice, promote hate and separation. It's absolutely stunning. It's mind-blowing. There's like how people can just stop themselves from thinking absolutely does my head in. Like, I just look at it and I'm like, what? How can you say, like, it's like literally, like, you open the New Testament and it's point blank saying what you're doing is wrong. This is not in the slightest ambiguous. It's really there very clearly. What you are doing is wrong. The promotion of greed and avarice, the judgmental preaching, the preaching of hate, the preaching of separation. It's like, it's the literal opposite. And I just find myself going, what? As Jason, as you point out, a lot of them they selectively focus on bits of the Old Testament that fit them. But again, in the New Testament, the actual teachings of Jesus, there are explicit passages that say, if Jesus has come to smash the old ways, to build a new covenant, if you hold something in the Old Testament above anything in the New Testament, you are like the worst sort of heretic. You are fundamentally, intrinsically rejecting the message of Jesus. Straight to hell, if it was real. So they're like incredibly lucky that it's all fucking lies. Oh my God, I think I've mentioned this before, that I'm not reading, I'm listening to the audiobook of a very long novel by Alan Moore, who's very famous for writing comics. It's called Jerusalem. I think the book is about 1,500 pages. The audiobook is 70 hours. I think I'm at like hour 50 something, I think. I've lost track. I've just been listening to it so much. And it's weird as fuck. Like, in this book, the afterlife, when you die, you basically become a 4-dimensional being. The existence in the afterlife, you can move through time space as we move through the physical world now, and so you can see anything and meet anyone, and it's also very much into predetermination, as in we don't have free will. Everything that happens was always going to happen. We have the illusion of free will, just enough to stop us from going insane. But everything that happens was predetermined by things that happened before it and was always going to happen. And there's nothing to do with it. There's one fun bit where there's an angel, they call them the angles or the builders, in the afterlife, is talking to one of the people from the afterlife, who's a bit of a philosopher. And the philosopher says to the angel, "Did we ever have free will?" And the angel looks a bit sad and goes, "No, but did you miss it?" You still had your life. The fact that there wasn't any free will involved, and it also gets into mathematics and all sorts of weird arcana and folklore. And it kind of basically follows this one family over centuries. And it's weird as fuck. It's a family that apparently, like, insanity runs in the family. But as you plunge into the book, you go, it's not really insanity. It's just with various members of this family through the ages, the truth was revealed to them, like an angel spoke to them or something else happened, and they were able to see what we are in is somewhat illusory, and you can see it from another dimension and everything's different. And but then when they say stuff like that, people think they're insane, or because they know certain things, they find it impossible to function in the world, so their behavior appears to be insane. So this family that has a history of insanity, it's not actually insanity, it's an understanding of the truth, and it's just all a bit much. But it's weird as fuck. This book is weird as fuck. Which is what I wanted from it. It was great. Uh, but yeah, it's centered on the city of Northampton in England. It's like the center of England, and it gets really uh, political as well, about sort of 20th and early 21st century politics with austerity and whatnot being shit and destroying the lives of poor people. But it's weird. It's really weird. What are you saying? Oh God, we've got onto Kevin Rudd. Yes, I do. That was the funny thing. So I agree with you. When Kevin Rudd was opposition leader running an election, there was this kind of cloud over. He seems a bit of a churchy nerd. I don't know if I want to vote for such a churchy nerd. And then someone in the National Party thought they were going to torpedo him by breaking this story about when he worked for the Foreign Office. He went to a strip club in New York. And it was just hilarious that this person in the National Party thought that would undermine Kevin Rudd and ruin his chances. But it took away the only thing that was holding him back, the churchy image. Oh, he's just a bloke. He went to a strip club. And he also had the perfect defense. Like, whenever they tried to ask him any embarrassing questions, like he said, "Yeah, I did do it. I was with some business people and went out and we got really drunk and we went to a strip club. Not proud, but it happened." And he had the perfect answer when they tried to embarrass him with, "Oh, who was your favourite stripper, Kev?" He would just say, "I'm too drunk to remember." And they go, "Oh, Kev, you're such a lad. Getting drunk. Oh, Kev, getting drunk and going to a strip club." So it was hilarious that this dipshit from the National Party thought it was going to torpedo Kevin Rudd when it actually improved his image quite a bit with a significant chunk of the Australian public. Very funny. And yes, I actually agree, Ms. Foxification. Rudd was working for the country as opposed to Scummo working for his church and his creepy fucking beliefs. It's just so disappointing that Rudd couldn't keep his fucking narcissism in control and couldn't be consistent. And as I've said when I've brought this up before, I think a really telling thing was that in the very early days of his career as Prime Minister, there was a big profile done on him. And his staffers, the people closest to him, his strongest supporters, at this very early stage, they went, he doesn't sleep enough. He's obsessive and workaholic, and he takes reading stuff to bed, and he's probably sleeping less than 4 hours a night, and he can't keep doing that. It'll fuck him up. And then he was prone to all these temper tantrums, which is a symptom of sleep deprivation, being erratic and whatnot. And I don't know, and he just got grumpy, erratic, narcissistic, and he started with so much promise, and his own party found him impossible to work with. If he could have just fucking notched it back and yeah, Murphy's only he's a workaholic, but not be such a workaholic and respect other people in the party and delegate authority and get some fucking sleep. It's just stuck in my mind so much, this profile from his very early days when his closest supporters said he doesn't sleep enough. He's obsessive and a workaholic, and he's not sleeping, and you can't keep doing that. It fucks you up. And it fucked him up to the point where he became impossible to work with, and his own party couldn't tolerate him anymore. So that's really disappointing, because I think he had so much potential as a prime minister, and yeah, his fucking narcissism ruined it. And his behaviour afterwards, like, honestly, I don't think his party should have rolled him, but he sort of pushed it because the thing his supporters gloss over, and which makes me really dislike them. But a thing his supporters gloss over is like, oh, how could Julia Gillard move against him? Oh, she swore she wouldn't. And she did. She swore up and down she wouldn't move against him. But he was so paranoid and narcissistic, he didn't believe her. So he put together these documents saying how shit she was. Like, look, we've done this. We've been doing phone polling to show that no one likes Julia Gillard. She couldn't possibly be prime minister. She should. And this is why, while people like Bill Shorten were lobbying Julia Gillard, saying you should withdraw support for Rudd and we'll put you in place. And she said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And she meant it. She wasn't going to do it. But Rudd didn't believe her and was going around shit-talking her to everyone. And, you know, Bill Shorten comes to Gillard again saying, you should withdraw support for him. And she says, I'm not doing that. And then he shows her the document that Rudd's been sharing about, like, you can't support Julia Gillard because she's shit and no one likes her. And she just went, oh, get fucked. And she walked into Rudd's office and said, that just showed me what you're doing. I said I was going to fuck you. You don't have my support anymore. And then he freaked. And he actually declared the position open. And that's the other thing. Gillard didn't roll him. He just knew he was getting rolled. And he declared the position open, and she won the vote. But his behaviour after that, with his own ego, was more important than the stability of the government, and he ensured that the government was just undermined constantly with his horseshit. So he destroyed whatever legacy he might have had with his hideous fucking narcissism, which I'm just so disappointed by, because he had so much potential as a prime minister, and he's completely ruined any legacy he had with his fucking narcissism and obnoxiousness. So I think the same thing as the Libs last year, except I don't give a shit about the Libs, and I just think it's funny when they do it. I couldn't believe they rolled Turnbull, though. Like, that was such a bad move, had such a negative effect on the public. And what's hilarious, Dutton was such garbage, and he thought he was getting it. If he'd have got in, the Libs would have got crushed in the election, in my humble opinion, because he's so fucking awful. He'd make Tony Abbott look like an altar boy, and the public would just turn on them wholesale. But then, out of the shadows comes Scott Morrison, which me and every other fucking pundit in the country was sure was going to go down in a screaming heap in the election, but didn't. And now they're in a more solid position than they've been since Abbott first won an election, which fucking took virtually everyone by surprise. Yeah. Now, there wasn't many people who saw that coming. That was a big old surprise. That was a very big surprise to a lot of people. The Libs actually winning the LNP winning the election under Morrison. Fuck, that was a shock. And this is the thing, like, I've seen other sort of lefties on YouTube go like, "Oh, I didn't see anything." Like, I mean, I'm going to be really well off under the Libs. Like, I refuse to admit that didn't upset me. And I remember saying, particularly in the live streams, in the lead up to the election, it was not impossible for the LNP to win the election. It was just super, super unlikely. And if it happened, all the right wingers who hate me get to laugh at me because I'd be super upset. And yeah, I've seen quite a few lefties sort of say about, "Oh, it doesn't hurt me." No, it was a fucking terrible result. I was quite upset with the result. I continue to be upset with the result. Although these days I'm more fucking upset with how pathetic the Labor opposition under Albanese is. Fuck, they're pathetic. I'm just going to throw it. And also, they'll be, "Oh, let's give them all fucking self-appointed nicknames." Scummo decided he's Scummo. He said Scomo. I just think Scummo is better. And also Albert. But if we follow the same principle, ScoMo, the first bit of first and last name, Albo shouldn't be Albo. He's Anthony Albanese, so he should be anal, which at the moment I'm okay with, because he is disappointing me incredibly. See, it's one thing, okay, if I really dislike a conservative government, it's like, well, duh, I'm fundamentally opposed to the things that they champion. But of the major party that I'm going to support as the preferable alternative in government, when they're fucking weak as piss, I'm going to get really angry. And yes, the Labor opposition so far, and it's early days yet, but there's no sign they're going to change. The Labor opposition is weak as fucking piss. Like, they are fucking terrible. They're awful. It's infuriating how bad they are. I mean, the fucking LNP has been a big ball of nothing since the election, although they're about to move into some policy areas that will definitely fucking motivate me to get angry, like, "Oh, religious freedom bill." It's like, oh, get fucked. That's a religious preference bill. It's not a religious freedom bill. It's I am going to protect bigotry spouted in the name of religion, and fuck you. And the other thing is, they're on the cusp of pushing their incredibly fucking evil industrial relations policy, and that'll be another one that'll get me all geared up and super fucking angry, because they're just all about taking away workers' basic rights and treating workers like shit. And that's a good point, Miss Foxification. They insisted that the marriage equality bill had to go to a public vote, even though everyone knew, every fucking public survey was significantly in favour of marriage equality, and that whole fucking campaign just gave license to these fucking religious bigots to spew hate and make gay people feel like shit because they're being vilified in public discourse. But yeah, when someone says, "Oh, I think I should change the marriage law to have some religious protection," that apparently doesn't have to go to vote. He can just unilaterally go, "Oh, I can actually inscribe religious bigotry in law." With a stroke of a pen, which of course he can, the same as John Howard changed the Marriage Act to fit his bigotry with the stroke of a pen. And you could have and should have introduced marriage equality with the stroke of a fucking pen, because that's how it works. Oh my God, these people are such fucking scum. Hey, no, I can stop being. When they introduced this shit, I can stop being angry at Labor. It's just that the government has done really not much since the election. But I think they're about to do shit that will get me super fucking angry. Is it namely religious protection and their super fucking evil industrial relations law. So yeah, hey, at least that's going to give me material. Because up until now it's been a big bunch of nothing, but we'll see what happens. Hey, look, it's 10 o'clock. I'll finish the last. I think that's actually just melted ice. It was mostly melted ice. There was a little bit of flavour still in there. That was the kicker. I only kicked one person. I thought there might be lots of them. There was only one. Boring shits. Okay, look after yourself, one and all. Look, you might see a lot of me in the next couple of days. I'm going to try and do a TFU Friday tomorrow because I might be busy recording stuff on the weekend. Mofo Sign might be coming over to talk some interesting topics on rebuilding democracy for a podcasty type talk, and we'll either do that live or I'll record it and upload it later. Hopefully AIDSy's coming over. Hopefully I'm doing another live stream with Eva on Sunday, probably. So you might be seeing quite a lot of me over the next couple of days. We shall see. We shall see. And I did agree to guest on someone else's channel, not this weekend, but the next weekend. And I will post things on the socials in my YouTube channel if you want to see that. Thank you, Sandy and Environmental Coffee House. And thank you for the link to your channel. I've got to try and watch some of your videos. I had a look at the videos that were on your channel. Seemed to be some very interesting topics on there. But look after yourself, one and all. Thank you for spending some time with me. It has always, as always, been great. But now is the time to bid farewell. And I will say bye for now.